Peace Almighty, Grand Poobah. Can you hear me? Mic check. Trying to see here, give the people who was on the first one a chance to get in. This one, want to start? All right. Natural market is back. Yeah, my phone started overheating, as I knew it would. So, digital, digital music artist in the house, aka Dev Dunlap, Lord of the Multiverse. Um, JDS said them people. Nah, I ain't gonna charge him to that this time. I'm gonna say that was them sun rays coming down, lift that phone up. Um, so okay, we got four people. That's enough to get going. So as I was saying, it was all this stuff been happening. Uh, Things being exposed on the internet, and um, scamming has been a big thing, of course. Like I said, the whole thing about the lady who got jammed up over the credit issue. Um, let's see, we had, now I'm drawing a blank on some of the stuff I've been jotting down, I've been seeing. But either way, I mentioned the RICO thing. And the RICO thing is that it's really these guys got jammed up based on the images they portray on the internet. Okay, this young lady got jammed up because, of course, it's through the internet that she promoted her business as far as credit repair. Um, the internet, the internet is what has provided us. I don't know if y'all heard about these tapes that are supposed to be out of the son of the president, and they got him wilding out. You know, um, basically Flex Washington in the house. What's up? So basically, they got him in some allegedly in some compromising situations, which seems awful convenient. The way like all of this was documented, almost as if it was meant to be seen. And what I'm going to talk about with Pluto going into Aquarius makes me think more that that particular thing, this person's private life exposed on the internet, has is intentional to help to push the agenda of what will be put in place with Pluto moving into Aquarius. Now, mind you, this guy's father, who is the president, was instrumental in pushing through the drug bill in 1994. Now, in 1994, Pluto was finishing up its transit through Scorpio, and it was preparing to move into Sagittarius. This is the opening introduction into our conversation. And so It'll make sense as I go along. This possible connection between his father being instrumental in the severe crack laws of 94 um, uh, versus now with Pluto at the end of Capricorn preparing to move into Aquarius. I'm not going to read all of this. I typed up this document, but I'm going to read some of it. Introduction. In Roman mythology, Pluto is the god of the underworld, the equivalent of the Greek Hades. He rules the world of the unseen, the hidden, and that which is taboo. He is quite familiar with pain and suffering as he longs for love and companionship, but feels deprived of it. An ultra powerful force, he is intense, malefic, and unimaginably driven, especially when he obsesses over what he desires. From an astronomical perspective, Pluto is the farthest of the planets of those that have been discovered in our solar system from the sun, and it has a wobbly, chaotic orbit. Astrologically, this translates into extreme intensity and an unstoppable force that deconstructs and destroys that which isn't real. Thus, when we experience a hard aspect, i.e., square, opposition, conjunction, quincunx, etc., to Pluto, collectively and personally, it can be a time of extreme events that force transformation and usher in a new era. Now, here's where I want you to really lock in. Make sure y'all hope y'all can still hear me. Uh, Prince not King, peace. Uh, as Pluto reaches the latter degrees of a sign, it typically provides an energetic view of what will come in the following sign. Say this again. As Pluto reaches the latter degrees of a sign, it typically provides an energetic view of what will come in the following sign. Then when it makes its ingress into the new sign, it causes some form of calamity relative to the demolition it will perform while transiting. In other words, when Pluto first goes into a new sign, it will cause some form of destruction that will give you a glimpse of what the theme will be while it moves through that sign, which can be anywhere from like 14 to 20 something years, you know, um, 83 to, I, yeah, 14 to 20 years, I think, somewhere around in there, Pluto's transit. So, yeah, because let's see, 12, 240, 248 divided by 12. Yeah, it can go 20 something years. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do is, like I said, I'm gonna skip around. So what I did in this document is I took some looks at Pluto moving since the 80s. Now, that in during the 80s, Pluto around I think 83, Pluto entered or made its ingress into the sign of Scorpio, its home sign, according to modern astrology. Okay, or yeah, what's modern astrology? Okay, um, do I want to go into all that? Well, I will just say this. Let's just talk about some things that went on in the 80s. The first reported cases of AIDS were in June of 1981, as Pluto was retrograde in the last decan 21 degrees of Libra, ruled by the planet of love, which is Venus. Libra is the masculine expression of love. As AIDS made its historical imprint, it would initially be considered a gay man's virus. By the time Pluto made its ingress into Scorpio, 1983, the sign it rules in modern astrology, as I just said, it would become even more powerful. In May of that year, the New York Times published a front page story on AIDS. Health chief calls AIDS battle number one. Health chief calls AIDS battle, quote, number one priority. So what I'm showing here is that when Pluto got towards the end, so there's three deacons in each sign. Deep deck means 10. So it was in the last 10 degrees of Libra. Libra is the sign of relationship. So Pluto is the underworld, taboo. It is malefic. It is destructive. So here was a destructive element relative to relationships that showed up when Pluto got to the end of Libra, giving you an indication of what would be one of the major themes as it moved through its transit in Scorpio. Okay. Uh, Within the same decade, we would see the birth of a deadly drug called crack, which elevated the 1970s party drug cocaine to a much more detrimental and devastating level. In its new form, freebase, it was mixed with other chemicals in a mad scientific stew to create a narcotic that would be smoked, delivering an unimaginable high. Further Plutonian themes of excessiveness, deep, dark, underworld activities, and crime were on the forefront. The underworld, Pluto, the ruler of it, well, the sign associated with the underworld is Scorpio. Scorpio, along with Pisces, deals heavily with addiction, narcotics, okay? Excessiveness, the darkness, you know, crime, underworld, crime, Scorpio. And as Pluto made its ingress into Scorpio, and now listen to this, as Pluto made its ingress into Scorpio in 1983, the DARE program, which is Drug Abuse Resistance Education, I remember being in the first grade when they came in, because it was 1983. I was in the first grade, and they came in, and police officers, and we first learned about some new program called DARE. I remember it like it was yesterday. Okay, but the program was launched in Los Angeles, California, which, along with New York, would serve as an epicenter of crack's proliferation and the spreading of its tentacles. Now we're going to go to the 1990s. Uh, by the mid 1990s, AIDS and crack were still major societal problems, and the residual effects were astronomical. However, Pluto was preparing to end its brief stay in its home sign of Scorpio. By the fall of 1994, Pluto had reached the last decan of Scorpio. It was at 25 degrees. Thus, it was time to give clues of what was to come in the near future. In September of that year, the Clinton administration set a legislative precedent enacting the infamous crime bill that was spearheaded by then Senator Joe Biden. Okay. By the end of September, the New York Times, Newsday, and the Daily News saw significant declines in their circulation, a culmination of a downturn that started earlier in the decade. Then, as Pluto made its ingress into Sagittarius, I want you to understand this. Sagittarius, along with other things, rules publications, as in newspapers. So when Pluto was in Scorpio, at the end of its cycle, nearing the end, it started showing signs of what would come in Sagittarius. As in, it started showing signs of the end of the newspaper. Okay, so there's more details to that, but we'll skip ahead. 2000s in 2004, as Pluto entered the third decan, 20 degrees of Sagittarius, it would gain again give warning signs of what would be coming. A false truth was propagated that there was an effort to foster more fairness and inclusion in home ownership. Sagittarius also deals with truth and fairness. That same year, home ownership would reach an all time high, around 70%. This can partially be attributed to the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, suspending net capital rules for five firms, allowing them to carry record amounts of debt. Between the years of 2004 2006, subprime mortgages skyrocketed. Again, this is foreshadowing, okay? 2004. The slippery slope was coated with another layer of black ice in 2003 when then President George W. Bush signed the American Dream Act, which would be implemented under HUD. The goal was to provide down payment assistance. Now, listen in. By 2006, pastors around the country in lower income areas invited financial, quote unquote, financial experts to speak to their church members. Now, Sagittarius also rules religious institutions. So, the calculated efforts encouraged many new home buyers to get locked into toxic subprime loans. These and other events set the stage for what would occur in 2008. Now, y'all know what occurred. The crash in the housing market. So, in the early 2000s, Pluto is nearing its end in Sagittarius. Sagittarius deals with publications, it deals with large institutions of learning, religious institutions, it deals with so called truth, fairness. So, all these things were put out, you know, creating more equanimity in home ownership. We saw the newspaper really reach kind of like its last leg, in the early 2000s. And we saw these subprime loans. Well, what happened in 2008? Pluto goes into Capricorn. But before we get to 2008, let's do 2006. With Pluto reaching 26 degrees of Sagittarius, what at first appeared to be an effort toward equity and fairness in that it was designed to claim casualties. In 2006, foreclosures skyrocketed 42% from the previous year, providing evidence of the impending storm. Okay, 2007, subprime lenders declared bankruptcy and over 2 million foreclosures were filed. August of that year, President Bush announced the infamous bank bailout. Now, keep in mind, Capricorn rules banks because Capricorn is the limit of the water. The bank is the limit of the water. The body of water stops at the bank, stops the flow of water. So Capricorn. So, but Pluto is still in Sagittarius, but it's giving you a warning as to what is coming when it goes into Capricorn. 2008, the last week of January, Pluto took its first dip into the sign of Capricorn, following the stock market downturn that began earlier in the month. A historical period in several ways, America saw the first price decline in home prices since the Great Depression. Suddenly, people who were lured into buying too much house stood face to face with the karma of their financial misgivings as ARMs, which are adjustable rate mortgages, began to increase. Thus, homes that initially seemed affordable became unmanageable, seemingly overnight. So y'all, I'm just walking you down so you can see how this thing plays out. This is how you can study astrology along with history, and then they magnify each other. When you study history and astrology together, then you really see how the two cannot be separated. Okay? So, what is to come? I don't want to read all this. Let's see. Let's do this. I'm gonna go just call the water bearer, but it's still talking about what's to come. The popular Bible scripture among New Age thought is a popular Bible scripture among New Age thought is Luke 22:10, where it is written, "When ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in." This passage has been attributed to the astrological sign of Aquarius. This new human epoch has been romanticized, referred to as the age of knowledge, where man is no longer burdened by dogma and beliefs, but instead driven by a gnosis. This period is also associated with freedom, community, humanity, equality, peace, and a blissful utopia. At first glance, these are all quite positive and hopeful states of existence. The reality, unfortunately, is that for the great light emitting potential of Aquarius, a huge shadow must be accounted for. And that's what I'm trying to get into. One Aquarian aspect that was not mentioned above is that of mass media broadcast, which includes the internet. Never before has man been able to communicate so easily and rapidly, at least externally. With this marvelous technology that amazingly relies on ancient magical tools, i.e., crystals, there is no longer a need to be contemplative, physically connected, empathetic, and sympathetic, and attentive to what others are saying. In other words, the skill of actively listening is diminishing at breakneck speed. The internet is cluttered with Aquarian talking points, but minimal application. In many instances, the emotional attachment to what is perceived as Aquarian drowns out the intuitiveness and mental exploration that leads to the deep knowing this epoch is supposed to represent. So, what am I saying in a nutshell? We're on the verge, as I'm sure many of you are aware, of communism. So, let's see how, because Pluto is in Capricorn right now. Capricorn not only rules banks, it's government because government sets the limits of society. Government structures our lives. Um, Pluto has been dismantling the structure of our lives. We don't just go back 2 years of what's been going on. It's been a dismantling. Okay, so let's look at some words that have become popular since Pluto has been in Capricorn, and to get an idea how Pluto has challenged structure. And one way it has challenged structure is through the internet. The internet, if we be completely honest, since 2008 has been the wild, wild west. At one point, you could just get on here and say anything. And we were tricked into thinking that there were no repercussions. Okay? So, in the midst of that, which was intended, it's the Hegelian dialectic, you know, give them access that they've never had before, you know, give them the idea that they are unregulated and they are completely free. And let's see what they'll do. We, through our statisticians and our data collectors and our sociologists and our psychologists, will be studying them, but we already have um, a hypothesis. And the hypothesis is this: if we give them this access, they will create the necessity for what we want to do anyway, which is lock it down. As a result of our natural human and animalistic inclinations being cued while Pluto has been moving through Capricorn, listen to some of the words that have come up. Doxing, investigating and revealing a person's private information online in a harmful manner. Doxing. Deplatforming, the annihilation of a person's digital presence or account on a certain social media platform. Fake news, the phrase coined for the presentation of false information, mainly in the digital space. And, you know, also under that banner of fake news, you have conspiracy, gaslighting, attempting to take someone's power through psychological manipulation, convincing the target to question himself, gang stalking, continuously focusing on and harassing a target, canceled, spreading information, whether truthful or not, with the hopes of deplatforming, reducing, or canceling a person's online following. Cyberbullying, similar to gang stalking, where a person or group of people are targeted with what is perceived as mean and threatening language. Now, here's a big one: catfishing, creating a fake online presence that is used to mislead others. Now, these, I believe, are predicted outcomes of allowing people to move in an unregulated fashion in this space we call the internet. And what has happened is, let's just take this guy they call, he says Darius Cooks. So it's funny, his name just kind of disappeared. But he was this guy down in Atlanta who had a who had or has a big online following, and he's like a cook. You know, he's not a trained chef, but he's, you know, I guess he's supposed to be a good cook. And he was known for having these dinners. Allegedly, he invite these people and go to these Airbnbs and sell all these products and he would collect all this money, and he might not show up for the event, or he would sell people these products. They might come in substandard condition, according to what the internet says, or he just may not even send people their product at all. We all know about that, right? That's been a very common thing throughout the Pluto transit through Capricorn. You know, these caricatures pop up with these nicknames, and whatever their cause is that they're all about, they push their agenda, and you know they offer their wares or whatever they got to sell, and then you hear all these stories about this so and so scam so and so for this amount of money, and this and that, and so it naturally creates a desire for something to be done to regulate this, or to stop these people, or to shut them down. Here, baby. Here, you ready to eat? Want to eat? Here, hold it so you don't drop it. Don't drop it. You got it? Okay, hold it with your other hand so you don't drop it. Go ahead and eat. You're not hungry yet? Okay, give it to me so we don't drop it. We'll eat it when we get home. Okay. And so um, it's only natural to want some remedy for people who going out here and preying on people. Okay. So this is what we mean by the Hegelian dialectic, where we get to a place like we're like, man, the internet's out of control. People just out here just ripping people, and and claiming that they have this skill, or or they are proficient in this area, and maybe what they did was they went and watched some other YouTube videos, and they said, I'll just repackage this, call it a different name, and I'm gonna try to resell it to my people, my tribe, and make a come up. And then, so for one, you got the issue of copycatism has been a big thing while Pluto has been in Capricorn. And then the whole thing of, I'm just straight up get your money and I ain't sending you nothing. So this guy, they start calling him Darius Crooks, you know. So he's an example of, but when people were trying to call him out, he was known, or he's known for doxing. Well, to get back at people, allegedly, he'll go and dig up all types of information, personal information about people, and release it online. That is one of the biggest indicators right there of what we can expect when Pluto goes into Aquarius, because Aquarius rules, along with other things, the internet. The internet. So, damn, I think, what is the come twice? So what did I put here? Uh, so I'm just gonna read this. When the internet first became available to the populace in the 1990s, it was considered a novelty. During Pluto's transit in Capricorn, the power of the internet has become more prevalent. Thus, it is now taken quite seriously. It has become a natural market. Hold on, I just saw that. Natural Mark said, now I feel bad. I've been late with orders. Well, it ain't about being late with orders if your intention. See, here's the thing. Just let me say this to you. You know what a lot of people want? Communication. Man, people support um, independent businesses because part of it is they identify with the struggle. And I don't mean like struggle as this mind, but they understand that the independent business is not a part of the machine. And so people like to see the independent business person make it because they feel like they can identify with it. You know, these big corporations rip people. I my iWatch, the face broke off. We were paying for insurance through Assyrian. Everything now is Assyrian on all your electronics, your insurance. We send it to they gave us the instructions to send it to UPS. UPS ship it back to them. All of a sudden, the watch is supposed to go to Irving, Texas. It ends up in California. Assyrian gives us the runaround. Call them like I don't know, probably 10 times. Give us the runaround. UPS say, well, it's not us. What's up, Gino? You know, UPS say it's not us. So guess what? These are two huge corporations, and nobody's taking accountability. So don't think that big folk they out here scamming on a major level. Been doing it. That's why I wasn't really tripping on the chick who got jammed up in Houston, cause man, this whole thing is crooked. You know, now if she was taking people's money and not delivering, then that's something else. But gaming, but that's neither here nor there. That's another conversation. My point is to you, natural market communication. Communicate to your people, because a lot of when we say scamming is not about your orders being late. Scamming is about I sent you the money and then the person acts like they have no record of me sending that money. And then it's like then they have no communication. Or this is what these people do. They say, uh, contact my assistant. Like, come on, man. Or your assistant or my assistant will get back with you. Come on. See, that's 52 fake out. If you're not doing that and you sincere with people and you'll talk to them and be like, look, man, you know what's going on. Supplies are coming in slow, and when you're running a business on a smaller scale and you don't have a whole lot of capital to keep inventory, that's something that can happen. You communicate with people and let them know, and you have the best interest. And hey, sometimes you might have to eat it. You might have to send them when you do send a product. You might have to send them something just a little extra. Go to Dollar Tree and spend whatever amount. Get just something extra and let them know, hey, man, people, this world has become such where people are feel so unappreciated. People are so entitled. People love it when anybody shows them some genuine customer service. So don't beat yourself on that. As long as your intentions are in the right place. We're talking about people who set out to scam, and even those who don't set out to scam, if they get into a jam, their thing is, well, it's better you than me. You know, you said no scamming like that, but sometimes it takes months. Well, here's the thing, from a business perspective, you know, you gotta always go back and recalibrate your systems. If you got a recurring problem, you got to go back to the drawing board. Check. I used to have a Patreon. I wasn't able to get videos loaded and the speed I wanted. I had to give somebody their money back. I didn't have to, but I did, you know, and I shut it down. You know, people are loyal. People will keep paying you and wait around for you to. But me, I just said I'm shutting it down until I'm in a position where I can really put up things that I want to. Those who don't know, I practice astrology. I did a reading for a person, and not by my fault, but something happened where the internet went. Something happened where it did not get recorded. And my thing is, when you do a reading, I send people the recording of their session. That's what I had to do. I told this man, come back, we'll do another 90-minute reading, and I'll record, make sure it's recorded this time. I'll send it. Okay? So I had to give up another 90 minutes of my time to redo his reading, you know. But this is what happened. He ended up coming back around and spending, first time he spent $150 because it's just a birth chart reading. Then he comes back and spends $300 to get a year forecast reading. And a lot of that was on the strength that he wasn't expecting me to redo that first reading, but I did it. And what a lot of these people don't understand, they don't understand about it ain't the money today, you working for tomorrow's money. And this is, see, Capricorn is an energy of compression. So while Pluto has been moving through Capricorn, there has been extreme compression. And so when you're compressed, what's in you is going to come out. So if a person generally ain't about nothing, I'm going to keep it like that, keep it clean, then if enough pressure is applied, then you're going to get all the feces is going to get squeezed out of it. If that person has not already been working to cleanse the colon, then when life squeezes on it more, all you're gonna get out of it is feces. So, amen. I was a supplier in stress. I'm a Gemini. I don't realize I was surrounded by people that want to see me win. I always compensate. There you go. So you see part of what your issue is. You just got to go back and restructure. Gemini is phenomenal at seeing the details. The struggle for Gemini sometimes can be focusing because you are seeing so many details that it can be hard to rule out which ones you need to take in. So, you know, uh, but I'm gonna know I'm going all off, but since you made that comment, I just want to say that because by you saying that, I don't get the feeling that you have bad intentions. So, but you're a Gemini. Communication is big for you. Make sure you communicate with your people. Give them what you want. You want communication. Communicate with them and use that skill of detail that you have and hone it in by digging into the Saturn in your chart. You got to ground yourself. Saturn's good about because Saturn, Capricorn sets the limits. Remember, I said the bank is the limit of the water. So utilize this Capricorn to your benefit and set your limits. Because with all of this stuff that I'm saying, everything poses an opportunity for you to make a magical transformation. As in, we've been studying all these metaphysics and things. How can we make them applicable in everyday life? How can we become alchemists in our everyday journey? How can we turn water into wine? You know, the thing about Capricorn, the other side is that it is very magical because there's magic in rigor. There's magic in doing, if you're doing just from a ritualistic standpoint, the point of a ritual is just an arrangement. So if it's an arrangement, for the arrangement to be to reach its fullest potential, it needs to be done consistently. Capricorn and Saturn, its ruler, are are about consistency. You know, because this is leads into what I wanted to go into, like, because in essence, what we're showing here is Pluto is showing us the wild, wild west is about to get tamed. And what it is if the people who have been doing things illegitimately are about to get jammed up, you know, because it's karmic. But discipline right now is one of the most magical elements going forward. Simple as that. Simple as that. I mean, there was a time where more people were more disciplined, so it's like, but the more this thing gets out of control, those with the most minuscule displays of discipline are going to stand out more and more than ever before. So, hope for the future. To counter what may appear to be a dismal outcome for the future, man will be challenged to put pettiness to the side, to form strong organic bonds, to barter and rediscover what it is to be a human and to be communal without being a communist. The time is up for disconnected interactions that are devoid of voice inflection, changes in facial expression, and displays of human emotion that deprive the receiver of experiencing something deeper than technologically driven interaction can provide. To cultivate a harmonious future, we must glean the positives from the technological explosion of the last 200 plus years and discard that which does not suit our humanity. Of course, that is easier said than done, but it is a must for those of us who have eyes to see and ears to hear. So, in a nutshell, eat the fish and spit out the bones. You know, um, one of my comrades who goes by the handle of Young E, um, he is a fellow wordologist. And I think it's very important to delve into the meaning of words right now, um, and to have a greater command of linguistics and the tongue and how to speak. And that is from the most scholarly level down to slang, because slang is magical. In other words, part of the regulation of Pluto and Capricorn in preparation for Pluto's transit in Aquarius, which rules the internet, is that speech is being inhibited. We're learning now that we really don't have freedom of speech. So, but one thing that we've always creatively done is use slang. You know, they talked about how, what's my man's name, Mickey Barnes. They talk about how he had created this language. You know, a lot of geniuses out here who get jammed up because of the compression. You know, but that's ingenious. Think about things like that. How do I say what I'm saying without just outright saying what I'm saying? How do I learn to speak through symbolism? Becoming more symbol literate. So there's the scholarly aspect, in conjunction with the natural inclination to put things in slang. Just things to think about going forward because it's gonna get funny. It's already getting funny, you know. Uh, so that's all I got. Um, just keep your eyes peeled and continue to cultivate your spiritual and intellectual selves. Spiritual and intellectual selves. So while you are getting in touch with your inner world, do things to feed the function of your brain. You know, read, is one thing. Reinvigorate that sense of study, you know, keep everything going, right brain, left brain. So, you know, that's all I got. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Um, as always, I'm available for a myriad of astrological readings for your children, for yourself, um, forecast for the year, a complete reading that takes your name, your numerology, your birth chart, all of that into. I mean, I got a host of different readings that I offer, and they are all edifying for the soul. So you can contact me at info@720astrology.com, and my site is 720astrology.com. As always, stay down till you get up, and you get up, stay down.